Well, folks, Elon Musk's Twitter takeover causing a lot of drama on Capitol Hill. The White House now responding, warning about the threat of misinformation and disinformation now that the company is going private. For the latest, let's bring in Chief White House Correspondent James Rosen. James.
Bob, good afternoon. Long before Elon Musk set his sights on Twitter, the Biden administration was heralded as potentially shaping up as the most hostile to big tech since the advent of the Silicon Valley age. This was in large measure because of the so-called all-star team of anti-big tech voices that were placed into senior administration positions. For example, Lina Khan was made the chair of the Federal Trade Commission. She had published a book called Amazon's Antitrust Paradox, and she also helped lead an important House investigation as a lawyer on Capitol Hill into big tech prior to her nomination. Tim Wu was placed on the National Economic Council. He was one of the earliest sounders of alarms about potential monopolization in Silicon Valley over a decade ago. Now, the White House has signed, for example, the president signed an executive order early in his tenure that was aimed at cracking down on big tech. But we haven't yet seen from the Biden administration anything earth-shattering in the antitrust department towards big tech, on a par, let's say, with the breakup of IT&T or the divestiture of IT&T during the Nixon administration, or the breakup of AT&T during the Reagan era. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, when asked about Mr. Musk's acquisition of Twitter during the briefing yesterday, was cautious in her reply, which notably refrained from saying two particular names, Musk and Trump.
I would say that our concerns are not new. We've long talked about, and the president has long talked about his concerns about the power of social media platforms, including Twitter and others, to spread misinformation, disinformation, the need for these platforms to be held accountable. He's been a strong supporter of fundamental reforms to achieve that goal, including reforms to Section 230, enacting antitrust reforms.
Now, Psaki wouldn't take the bait when reporters asked if the White House would be pleased or displeased to see former President Trump return to the Twitter platform. There's published reporting today, notably in Politico Playbook, suggesting that the group here in official Washington who would be most displeased to see Donald Trump return to Twitter are his fellow Republicans, who are looking toward victories in the midterm elections and who don't want to go back to the days when all candidates and all members of Congress were asked about the latest outrageous thing that Donald Trump had just posted on Twitter. Bob?
Yeah, it's an interesting twist. He would dominate the news cycle, but then put somebody in a tough position. So, James, can't believe you brought up Ma Bell. I'm feeling awfully old now. AT&T.
I do what I can, Bob.
Thank you very much. James Rosen at the White House there. Here for reaction to this report, and we're sure to discuss another interesting topic related to visits to see then President Biden. Former Deputy Assistant to the President for Counterterrorism, Kash Patel. Kash, this is all about what's out on the public forum, if you will. And it seems like those are on the left are really worried about this. What are they so worried about?
Well, it's what we've always been worried about, disinformation and misinformation. It's just that the left has sort of taken notice because their disinformation, misinformation train, started by Adam Schiff and the mainstream media after Donald Trump got elected, is now turning around and going directly at them with actual facts. And what they are doing is setting the stage to say, since Elon Musk bought Twitter and since Donald Trump's Truth Social platform is so successful, of course, they're only going to be purveyors of disinformation and misinformation now, except the difference is we're going to put out the facts, and they are terrified of those facts on all things Hunter Biden, Durham, White House logs, and so much more.
Do you think Mr. Trump is headed back to Twitter? He has said publicly he's not going to go back. And if he does not, why wouldn't he? Is it because he feels Truth Social is more effective in reaching his audience?
Yeah, so he's definitely not going back to Twitter. And he started Truth Social for that reason. And he thinks it's a successful platform. I tend to agree with him. Truth Social came out of beta over the weekend and has uploaded. You can just go on there and see it looks like millions and millions of users who are thoroughly pleased with the platform. And it's the #1 app on the Apple App Store for the last 5 days running. So I think he thinks it's going to be successful. And if he posts on Truth, there's no need for Donald Trump to post anywhere else.
I still think he's coming back, but that's another conversation. I want to shift your attention to this. A majority of people say that Joe Biden is involved with his son Hunter's corruption. I don't know whether that's a poll that's being quoted. Let's just say there are a lot of people that believe that's the case. Press Secretary Jen Psaki dismissed a New York Post report, though, during a briefing. Listen to this.
Do you help us understand why that business partner had access and what those meetings were about?
I don't have any information on that. I'm happy to check and see if we have any more comment.
Okay. Just so folks know, as I understand it, and throw in anything you want here, Kash, I believe 19 times this associate or business connection of Hunter Biden visited the White House, and either visited then Vice President Biden or somebody associated with the vice president. And the whole thing that people wonder is, what are you selling if you're working with somebody other than access? And if you're getting access, and this is evidence that there was some access, what are you getting for that access?
No, look, you're entirely right. And I don't have the answers to any of these questions because I'm no longer in government. But the fact that they are denying the American public the right to even ask the questions and get those answers because Joe Biden is now in the White House highlights their hypocrisy and only ticks off more and more Americans for the lack of accountability. Jen Psaki goes on this particular line of effort with these 19 visits, says, oh, I don't have any more information on that. No, you could go get it. You've just chosen not to put it out there, knowing you as a press secretary are going to face these tough questions because Americans are now getting hip to the fact that Hunter Biden did pay for play, did quid pro quo when his father was vice president, and the money doesn't lie, and the millions of dollars feeding back to the Biden family are irrefutable. And so they can put that information out there. They just choose not to because they are the ones that have done what they leveled at the Trump administration, and it is what is ticking off Americans more than anything is hypocrisy and a lack of accountability.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions that haven't been answered. So I think everybody has to agree on that. Also, I wanted to get your thoughts on this report. Hillary Clinton's campaign lawyer, Michael Sussman, now won't try to prove ties between Trump and Russia, according to a court filing. Wasn't that the point of the dossier?
Look, the Durham prosecutions are kicking into high gear, and there have been a flurry of filings. And Michael Sussman, the central character of the Hillary Clinton campaign, has finally come around to saying what Devin Nunes and I proved years ago. There was no Trump-Russia connection. What the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton and Michael Sussman did do was fabricate that connection. So, of course, Michael Sussman isn't going to go into a federal court of law charged as a criminal and say another lie on top of the one he's already charged with, that Trump and Russia actually colluded, when he knows the only people that actually colluded are the Hillary Clinton campaign, Fusion GPS, Sussman, Elias, and the crooks at the FBI.
Kash, before we go, do you think Hillary's running? Do you think she could get the nomination?
I sure hope so, because I would love nothing more than to have a rematch with Donald Trump. And
that would be something. I'd sit here every day with some popcorn and watch what happens. I mean, that would be amazing.
And she's got a big enough ego to do it.
I think they both do. Kash Patel, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.